that was weird. So I want to talk about what we are actually looking at when we talk about the 2021 composite. I want to talk about what we're looking at when we look at the uncommitted prospects with Smile London deciding to commit to Georgia earlier today. And I want to get into a little bit of Bedlam conversation. But let's start with this. If you're in the chat, say what's up, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We talk about college football and sports without the question mark. Here, I'm really getting interested in what's going on in the sports media landscape. Not that anybody else outside of me seems to care, but my goodness, man. Let's start with this news that I thought should go toward the top after reading it myself. I was taking a look at Steve Wiltfong's leans story. I always love a good leans story as to where the recruits are going. And I'm going down the list, right? It's going about how you thought, right? The number one player in the 247 Sports composite, or excuse me, not in the composite, in the top 247, JT Tuimoloau, coming out of Sammamish, Eastside Catholic, feels like an Ohio State lean. Cool. Corey Foreman, coming out of Centennial in Corona, California, feels like an LSU lean. Cool. Emeka Egbuka, feels like an Ohio State lean. Even as we can continue to talk about what that means in response to playing wide receiver at Oklahoma versus Ohio State or Washington. And then we get to Tristan Leigh, who is ranked number 15 in the top 247. And yet the prediction from Wiltfong is Oklahoma. Check out this skinny. This is a tight one between LSU and Oklahoma, and I like where the Sooners stand at this point. A visit in the summer for the Sooner Summit was an eye-opener, and relationships with Oklahoma staff and their commits, along with Bill Blankenship's penchant for developing offensive linemen, all intriguing factors. LSU has pushed for Leigh the longest. He's been to Baton Rouge the most of his finalists, including twice during the pandemic, and James Craig's track record is strong as well. Ohio State, Florida, and Clemson are the three others pushing hard, but I think it comes down to Oklahoma and LSU. Based on what I've heard right now, I like the Sooners' chances. That is really exciting news for Oklahoma fans and really interesting news on the LSU front because, you know, I talked about this earlier on Monday when we did the live show, live podcast Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, in which I thought LSU might have an opportunity to hold on to their commits and add to that commit list Mason Smith, Tristan Leigh, Corey Foreman. Mason Smith is a huge LSU lean coming from the state and one of the top defensive tackles in the country. Corey Foreman took the trip there, saw his name on marquees outside of restaurants. I mean, that's what does it for you. It's not exactly, you know, your name inside a Tiger Stadium, but it's a pandemic. You can't get inside a Tiger Stadium without, you know, or with coaches to escort you around. They probably could, you know, make it easier for you to do, kind of like the Sooner Summit, where it just happened to be on that day that stuff just kind of was falling into place. And then there's this bit about Tristan Leigh that I thought perhaps because he'd been down there, perhaps because his family is familiar with Baton Rouge now and they kind of like it, that he would be leaning that way. But in recent months, we have seen LSU see opt-outs of two of their top players, including Kerry Vincent and Jamar Chase, right? Reigning Biletnikoff Award winner. We've seen LSU be sorry on a football field. They are a 3-point dog to Arkansas this year. And we've also seen their defense can't stop anybody, right? Like their defense is holding up like a wet paper towel. It's just not very good. And the Bo Pelini experience might not last after this year. Matter of fact, Bo Pelini might be looking for a job the same way that Mike Nolan, I think, is going to be looking for a job at the end of this year. And then there's this latest with LSU's gross mishandling of sexual assault allegations in which we have criminal charges that are being filed, right? Darius Geis among them, Drake Davis in that story about him punching a woman in the stomach, and then a tennis coach knowing about it and not reporting it. That's untoward. And then we got on top of that the self-reported NCAA violations, wherein, among other things, a booster paid money to an offensive lineman who ended up going to LSU. And we got LSU winning the national championship in New Orleans. Odell Beckham Jr. coming out there with a grip and ripping off the skins to hand to guys like Justin Jefferson, guys he thought, you know, weren't no longer affiliated with LSU after having won a national championship. Yeah, all right. So I can understand how all of those things build toward perhaps you taking a look at somewhere else, notably Oklahoma. Oklahoma, because as was noted there, Bill Bedenbaugh has an outstanding record when it comes to putting offensive linemen in the NFL draft. Though this year, his offensive line has not been anything like what we expected it to be. And Creed Humphrey's development has stunted, dare I say, regressed since his redshirt freshman year, in which Lincoln Riley went on record that September to say the most talented football player on our roster is not Kyler Murray. The most talented football player on our roster is Creed Humphrey. That was what was expected of him. And with Marquise Hayes, Tyrese Robinson, Creed Humphrey returning to make that interior that good, along with tackles like Adrian Ealy and even Eric Swinton to a degree, I expected them to compete for a Joe Moore Award this year, and they just haven't been that good of an offensive line. They've seen a true freshman start at left tackle in Anton Harris. You're seeing more Andrew Rame sightings at left guard. Andrew Rame is also one of the most talented football players of the 2020 class. I believe he finished in like the top 50 among the 247 Sports Composite last year. And he's going to play center, guard. He can play some tackle for you if you want. I also expected to see more Bray Walker. I expected to see more Darrell Simpson. I have not seen a lot of either one of those guys through here. And you lose EJ Indoma-Ogar to transfer to Missouri, right? And we're still waiting on a Finley Felix to show out, right? Figure out what's going on there. There's a number of offensive linemen that I would like to see Bill Bedenbaugh develop. That said, a couple years ago, he has a unanimous All-American, right? He has Orlando Brown. He has a Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line. He's able to put guys like Bobby Evans into the lead. You're seeing what Ben Powers is able to do. Drew Samia, who hadn't been great with the Minnesota Vikings, but he's still cutting a check. You know what I mean? So there's give and take, I think, on this discussion, but that Oklahoma is in this at all speaks to how severe the situation must be at LSU, because I would have written in pencil Tristan Leigh decides to commit to LSU in December and sign his national letter of intent then. Now, with Wilt Fong coming in with a prediction of Oklahoma, man that really does not miss very often. In fact, I think he's missed once in like the last 18 months, right? And that was at a time when everybody missed. Like everybody thought that this dude was doing somewhere else. Anyway, the point there being, if Oklahoma's in the discussion, Oklahoma must be leading. Now Oklahoma has an opportunity to capitalize on LSU's misfortune, go win a Big 12 championship, and they can start by doing it on national television this weekend. Now, I want to get into that. First, I want to take a question because I like to take the question since we do the live show and you guys are in the chat.